Hi, welcome to this longer version of Fitness Facts, where I provide an overview of energy metabolism during exercise. That may not sound exciting, but at the end I'll provide some information of how you can apply this information to your own workouts. During exercise, the muscles need a constant supply of energy, which comes in the form of a molecule called ATP or adenosine triphosphate. The problem is the muscles only store enough ATP to provide energy for a few seconds. Because ATP is a relatively large and heavy molecule, and if the muscle stored all the ATP needed for a given workout, that would make your muscles and you too heavy to move. So that little amount of ATP is constantly being recycled, and not just during exercise, but even at rest. The energy in ATP is found in the connection or the bonds of the three phosphate molecules. When the N-phosphate is broken off, energy is released to power muscle contraction. That leaves the muscles with a phosphate and an ADP, or adenosine diphosphate, which has energy but it's unusable to the muscles. Fortunately, there are energy or metabolic systems inside the muscles that take energy from the food you eat and form a new high energy bond between the phosphate and the ADP, producing a new ATP molecule that the muscles can use. There are three systems that can do this. Two that are anaerobic that don't require oxygen, and the aerobic or oxidative system that does. The aerobic system takes energy from carbohydrate or fat in the form of glucose and fatty acids respectively, and with the help of oxygen, combine phosphate and ADP to form new ATP molecules, with carbon dioxide and water as the only harmless byproducts. You use this system 24/7 in all the cells of the body to provide the energy they need to keep you alive. But during aerobic exercise, the muscles need even more ATP. So your lungs and heart deliver more oxygen to the muscles. So they have all the extra ATP needed for you to jog, swim, cycle, or whatever aerobic exercise you're doing. As long as you can talk while you exercise, you're getting most of your energy from aerobic metabolism, which can produce enough ATP to run a marathon. But compared to the anaerobic systems, it's a relatively slow process because of the number of reactions it takes to get the energy from the carbohydrate or fat into the ATP aerobically. However, if you're out for a run and you need to pick up the pace because you overdid it at Taco Bell the night before and there's not a bathroom in sight, your breathing and heart rate will further increase to supply even more oxygen and therefore ATP to the muscles to maintain the more intense running pace. But in this case, the muscle's need for energy is greater than the slow aerobic system can provide. So while the aerobic system contributes what it can, the muscles begin to get a significant amount of energy from one of the anaerobic systems called glycolysis. Glycolysis doesn't have to wait on oxygen, and it has way fewer reactions, so it can produce energy much faster than the aerobic system. Glycolysis quickly breaks down glucose and uses its energy to make new ATP. But in the process, it produces lactic acid, which is converted to lactate and acid. The acid, along with all the phosphates floating around waiting to rejoin ADP, slow down all the energy systems, causing muscle contraction to slow down and weaken, which is the definition of muscle fatigue. So when you picked up the running pace, your muscles began getting most of the ATP or energy from glycolysis, as well as some fatigue-causing acid, which is why you can't run as far at a fast anaerobic pace as you can a moderate aerobic pace. Meanwhile, your lungs and heart are still trying to supply as much oxygen to the muscles as they can, which is why when glycolysis is the primary energy source being used, it's difficult to speak during exercise. But what if you encounter a saber-toothed tiger on your run? You turn that fast run into a sprint, which relies on the other anaerobic system. This is called the ATP-PC or phosphagen system. This system takes a high-energy molecule called phosphocreatine and transfers its energy directly into ATP in one step. So this is the fastest energy-producing system, but it's also the shortest lived, since your muscles only store enough phosphocreatine to provide energy for about 15 seconds worth of exercise. All three energy systems are always making ATP. Your muscles don't turn them off or on. But depending on the intensity of the exercise, one of those systems will take the lead and be the primary producer of ATP, while the other two systems play a supportive role. For example, the aerobic system is the primary provider of ATP during light to moderate exercise, glycolysis during intense exercise, and the ATP-PC system during all-out maximal effort. But the ATP-PC system can only dominate for about 15 seconds. Glycolysis for about 1 to 3 minutes, while the aerobic system can go on for hours. So if the energy system is what you gain with fast energy production, you lose with its short time frame. Or what you gain with long energy production, you lose in speed. Now here are some application points. The aerobic system takes energy from both carbohydrate in the form of glucose and fat in the form of fatty acids to make ATP. The benefit of using fat is that there's nearly an unlimited source of energy in the body, even people at healthy body weights. But fat is a slow fuel. Carbohydrate, on the other hand, can provide energy for ATP faster than fat, but it's a limited source that gets depleted after about an hour and a half to 2 hours of aerobic exercise. This is why carbohydrate loading is beneficial to people doing aerobic exercise longer than 2 hours, when glycolysis is the primary energy producer during high-intensity events lasting 1 to 2 minutes. Lactate is produced in high amounts, which I cover in other videos, does not contribute to fatigue, but can be used as an energy source or a signaling factor in other places throughout the body. At maximal efforts, the ATP-PC system only lasts a few seconds. But as I explained in other videos, taking creatine can increase the energy capacity of the ATP-PC system. This would allow you to resistance train a little harder or longer, or allow you to do intervals or sprints a little faster or longer. That's my broad overview of energy production during exercise. I'll cover each of the 3 systems in more detail with more application in other videos. But if you have questions about any of this, or requests on what you'd like me to cover, please leave it in the comments below. As always, my answers come from peer-reviewed research linked in that comment section.